Hello Infiniteers, we are back in Monstropolis, and today we're going to begin working on the interior of the Monsters, Inc. factory. But before we can do that, we need a toy box door for the factory entrance, and we need to create a toy box for the factory interior. Now, you can place this toy box directly right here in front of this building if you'd like. I typically don't like to do that because it just looks ugly to me, and usually the toy box door doesn't fit the theme. So, if you're doing a medieval theme, that just doesn't fit. But in this particular toy box theme, it could fit. And so if you like to have an explicit door there to make it clear that the player can go in there, that's fine. Since it's usually just me playing on my toy boxes, what I like to do is put my toy box door out of the way and then set up a trigger area so that it's a little bit more natural feeling for the player to go through a door that looks like it belongs in the environment. Of course, without the toy box door there, you kind of lose the obvious cue that you can go there, but since I built the toy box and nobody's really going to play this at my house except me or my guests, then I'll usually be sitting here. I'll go ahead and place that there, and I can let them know that they can go that way if they want. Let's go ahead and set up the toy box door first. So for the destination, we're going to change this. And for the factory interior, we're going to need a new toy box. And I'm not going to use the interior toy box because we don't have any room shapes. There's no way to really build the factory in the interior toy box. We're going to do an empty toy box, and we're going to build the factory interior from scratch. And for the title on this, give me a second to type this in. Got to type this in on my Wii U. We'll just call it Monsters, Inc. And that creates the toy box door. And the rest of those properties are fine. Alright, and then we just link up our trigger area to the toy box door. So we do a new logic connection when entered by player, any, come down to our toy box door, and change the level. And there we go. At this point, I will save my Monstropolis toy box, and then I will go through that toy box door, but that'll take a couple of minutes, so I will fast forward and meet you on the other side. Okay, here we are in the new toy box, and this is where we will build the factory interior. And I'm going to start today with the scare floor. I know many of you have been eagerly waiting for this part of the build, and today's the day. Here's a screenshot of the scare floor from the Monsters, Inc. movie. Recreating this location in the toy box was a challenge because the only two building pieces we have for this room are the big screen on the far wall, which you can unlock through the Toy Box Speedway game, and the door station, which is only available in the interior toys. We also have some generic computer desks in the interior that we can use for each door station, but that's it. Everything else that you see here has to be built from scratch using basic blocks or whatever other building pieces we can scrounge together. Now, as we look at this shot, the first thing I want you to notice is the shape of the room. The walls on the left are leaning inward at an angle, and the support beams on the right are leaning in that same direction. Also, the ceiling is slanted at an angle. I have seen several toy box videos where people attempted to build the scare floor, but in each case they built it as a rectangular box with perfectly vertical walls, and it does not look right. In order to properly recreate this room, we have to build the walls and the ceiling at an angle. Another detail that I want you to notice, are the windows along the left wall and the direction that the light is entering the room. If we want to recreate this room as we see it here, it will be very important that we orient the toy box correctly so that the light source in the sky dome will send the light through the windows onto the floor like we see it here. Here's another shot of the scare floor from the opposite direction. The support beams are now on the left, and you can get a better look at the space behind the desks on the left. Also, notice the hole in the far wall. This is where the doors come and go, and here's a closer shot of that. You can see there's a rail system up there that delivers the doors and takes them away. And here is a shot of the big screen above the entrance to the scare floor. The entrance is in the lower right corner of this shot, and here's a closer look at that. You can see there's a clock and some other things mounted on the wall to the right of that big screen, and that's right above the opening. Below, you can see the entrance to the scare floor with a coffee station on the right. Roz's desk is across from that on the left side of that little hallway. We'll talk more about that area in an upcoming episode when we get to that part of the build. For today, I want to focus on framing in the scare floor and showing you how to build it in such a way that we recreate the angled walls and the overall shape of the room. We'll worry about the details in a later episode, so we're just going to focus on the room's shape right now. So the first thing we need to do is we got to set the sky. And so let's head down to the Instant Fun category. Oops, went right past it twice. And we're going to set the sky the same way that we had for the first toy box there for Monstropolis. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Disney Infinity. We want the Monsters University sky. Okay, and then we can delete the sky changer. And as we look at the sky dome, you'll notice the sun is over in that direction. We actually can see where the light source is coming from. Okay, so that means that wall with the windows on it is going to be on this side of the scare floor. And the scare floor is going to be here with the entrance on this end of the toy box. Okay? And if you have any doubts about that, you can drop a terrain block in here. And you can see where the shadow is. So the light is definitely coming from that direction up there. All right, for the terrain, this will be the floor of the scare floor. We're going to use the Numancian Island headquarters. That'll be my theme. And we're going to need to place down a couple more of these huge blocks. Oops, there we go. We'll put one down here. Alright, so that's the direction the scare floor is going to be built in. And now the positioning of this on the terrain is going to be very important, because when we get to other parts of the factory, we need to make sure that this terrain, that the scare floor is built in the right place on this terrain. So I'm going to set this little square block right here on the corner of this this first terrain block that we started with. All right, and again, the light source is over there. All right, so we're going to begin with that, and then we're going to go over to the left, and I'm going to pick up this block wall. And we actually want this where it's overlapping that cube, but we'll back this up just a little bit. And we're going to use for the theme on this, we're going to use the Metal 2 theme. I'll set that to be my theme. Okay. And then we can go ahead and delete this little block. And we're going to move this over one little nudge. So it's going to sit right there. So the terrain cube would have sat right in here, but the block is going to overlap that. So I just wanted you to see exactly where to place this first block. All right, and then for the wall of the scare floor, again, the entrance is going to be over there. So this is the section behind those support beams that was hard to see. We're going to put 9 of these down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 total. All right. And let me pull up my screen grabs here before I go too much further. Okay. All right, so now we're going to come to this little short block wall, and we're going to put a row of these all the way down. And another row on top of that. So this wall is going to be a total of 5 blocks high. Those large pieces down below are 3 blocks high. This will make row number 4. This is row number 5. And this is a lot of blocks, but can't really go higher on this building, or shorter, without having this look weird. Alright, so there is our wall. Alright, while we're right here, let's go ahead and put down the blocks that we're going to need for the ceiling. And we're going to drop these off over here. And we're going to need as many as we have over there on the wall, which is 9. With one of these on the end. And we're going to need another set of these as well. And we're setting these out here for right now because in order to angle these, we're going to have to use a path a little bit later on. Okay. Now, on the other side, we have that angled wall. So we're going to bring these over, spin them around, and that's really important because these are going to have to be on the outside edge of the building. So if you put them at the wrong orientation, they're going to be kind of embedded in the walls where you don't want them. And once again, another row of these. And we'll come back to those later. Okay, so now we have all of the metal parts of this. Let's start working on framing in the structure. And for that, we're going to go back to the blocks at the start of the drawer, namely these. And let's start along the ceiling up here. So I'm going to place the first one here. We're going to change the theme on this now. For the theme of the framework blocks, we're going to use Concrete 2. I'll set that to be my theme. All right, and then we're going to put in some alternating blocks here. And you're just going to alternate between these all the way down. And you end up with that. Okay? And there we are. Alright, so that's the top edge there. Now, inside, underneath, we need those angled support walls. And to do that, we're going to use these 2 blocks right here. So this first one, is going to come right out here and sit on the edge of that block just like that. And you're going to put 2 of these down. And this is why we had to have this wall out here be 5 blocks high, because each of these is 2 blocks high, and then we need the row of blocks along the top. All right. And then we're going to put this one on the back side. So this sits right in here like that. And right in here like that. Okay, so you're going to do this on each of these smaller blocks. Like that, okay? Do that on each of these little cubes all the way down. You're going to build a support just like that on all of those, okay? Now for the ceiling, what we're going to do is use these. And actually these two. All right. So first one is going to sit right in here like this. And we're going to need 3 of these. Followed by this one on the top. Like that. Okay? And you're going to do that for every one of those cubes all the way down. So once again, you're going to do that. And then at the top, we're going to have the peak of the roof. And so once again, you're going to alternate these all the way down, just like we did down below there. And so on, all the way down over here. Okay? All right, now for the support going along the left wall. Once again, we'll come back to these blocks. And we'll start with this one. This is going to sit right underneath that cube, like that. And we're going to come down to the ground there. You'll notice it doesn't come all the way down, and that's fine. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so you're going to do this for every one of these beams as well. And this is framing in the shape of the scare floor. So now if we look at this from this direction, you can see the shape of the room is starting to take shape here. Oops, I needed one more of these along the front. Here we go. So like that. All right, and then you get to the bottom edge of this, and we're going to put a cube underneath each of these supports. And you'll do that all the way down. And then come out with another one. And you're going to do the alternating thing again. So a cube and a long piece, cube and a long piece, and you're going to run into the starting pad here. So we can just slide this out of the way for right now. And just do this all the way down like we have across from there. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go offline and add in the rest of the support pieces. Oh, and by the way, I forgot a piece over here. All right, but this is what you should have for each of the support beams. So I'm going to go offline and do that because that's going to take me a little bit of time here, and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, I am back, and as you can see, I am adding one more brace here on the end of this. So I put another cube here and another set of these. Oops, missed one there. Like that. All right. And there is the shape of our scare floor. And that looks pretty good already. All right, and because I added this extra line along the back here, we're going to need one more set of these. So let's put this in here, and once again, let's change the texture back to Metal 2. Back over to the left to Metal 2. I'll set that to be my theme. And we're going to need another support here on either side, or another set of sheet metal here on either side. And a couple little pieces up top. Okay, and there we go. And you'll notice in the screenshots, this support beam actually came down a little further here. And I decided, since that's not a very popularly visited area, you don't really see it very well in the movies, it's not where the player is going to be, I took the liberty of making this just a tall vertical wall out here on the end, instead of a more sloped, continuing the slope of the ceiling here down further. Just saves a little memory. All right, speaking of the sloped walls and floor, now to get this, we're going to need some path creators. And what I want to do here is we're going to put down some blocks to help us. And this is another reason why it's a good idea to change the theme here and leave this changed, because it just reinforces the fact that these are helper blocks. All right. And so we're going to put this block down just like you see there. This is just temporary. And what you'll notice is this creates a little 90-degree angle there between the wall support and the slope of the piece that I just put down. And we're going to need to place one of these in the center of each of these blocks for the wall. So this one is lined up with this piece. The next piece needs to be lined up with that piece. And so we're going to bring this down and drop that right there. The next piece, to center it on there, puts these this little wedge here like that. And again, you're centering it on the wall piece that's over here. And that's where the wedge needs to go. And you'll notice it's sitting on that outer wall on the bottom there. So you're going to do this all the way down. Okay? Do that for the rest of those all the way down. Along the top, you're going to do the same thing, except because the slope is different, we're going to use this piece. And this is going to sit right here, this first one, just like that. And again, notice that creates a little 90-degree angle there between that piece and the one next to it. Okay? And once again, just like before, we want to center it on these blocks here. And it needs to sit right up here on top of this wall. So that's centered. Like that. Do the same thing all the way down. All right, so these blocks that we just put in here and these little wedge blocks that we put in down here, this is going to tell you where the path creators need to go. Okay, so what you're going to do is come to the Creativitoys drawer now. And we're going to go left to the path creator. And what we want to do is we're going to drop the path there and drop the second point right there. And that creates the angle for the path. And then we'll exit. You're going to do that on each of these blocks. Okay. Center it on that block. Put the next point up here. Do that for all of the wedge blocks all the way down. Likewise up here, the path creator point goes right here. The second point goes right up here at the tip. And that gets the orientation of the path correct. All right. Exit. Do that for all of the wedge blocks all the way down. Okay. When you're done, come into the path properties for every path and take the auto start objects when connected setting and turn it off. So you're going to do that with each one of these paths, because we don't want the blocks to move when we attach them to the path. Okay, so do that for all of the paths all the way down. Do that for all of the paths here all the way down. And once you've done that, then you can take these blocks out and do that all the way down. And there are your paths. Okay? Now, to get the walls angled, we're going to connect these to the path. This first set of walls are going to go right along the bottom edge here. The second set of walls are going to go along the top. And in the middle, we're going to leave a gap, which is going to serve as our windows. Okay? So for this wall, select it, open up the logic menu, do a new path connection. Come over to the path and connect that to the path. Oops, and I forgot to turn that one off. I should have done that first. Okay. And so what we're going to have to do is catch this thing. You know, the other thing we can do down here too. Nope. Is let's take the properties and make this really slow. I'll put that at 1. So now I can select this block. And we'll delete the link to the path creator. And before I continue, let me just go ahead and do this for the next one. Again, do this for all of them, but I was trying to save a little time. Oops, did not mean to pick that up. Okay, because I'm just going to show you a couple of these, and then I'll do the rest offline, because they're all the same. So, once again, new path connection. We'll reconnect it to this path, and now it shouldn't move. Okay, and you'll notice how this puts it. It is sitting with the orientation, so it's the bottom edge is resting on this block, not that block. And that's important. Again, the orientation of this block matters, because if it was flipped around 180 degrees, when you lay it down, it's going to be embedded in this block. We don't want it embedded in that block, we want it laying on top of it. So to get it to lay on top of it, if I can select this thing, there we go. So we're going to open up the properties for the block. You have to take the cursor up high enough to select it. The only thing we're going to do here is orient along the path. And this is going to put it on the path, sitting at a 90-degree angle on the path, which drops it against that wall. So that's why we had those wedge blocks under here. That's why we laid this path out at the angle that we did, so that when we turn on that flag, to orient along the path, it'll snap it up against the building like that. Okay? You'll do that with each of these blocks all the way down. So we do a new path connection on that block. Come over here, connect to the path, edit the block properties, and turn on orient along path, and that snaps it in place. Okay, that's all you have to do for that first row. Do that all the way down for all of this first row of blocks. Now for the second row of blocks, new path connection, connect that up to the same path as the block that was before it, and then select the block, go into the properties, toy box path, and for the top row there's a few things we need to change here. First, once again, we're going to orient along the path. That's going to drop it in place on top of the first block that we put in there. But then come down to vertical offset, and we're going to change this to 16. Okay, and let me just exit out and show you what it did, because we have to change one more block. You'll see that raised it up to this point. And now to get it to lay against the wall, we need to move it over this way. And so there's one more property we need to change, and that is the forward-backward offset. And for this, we're going to set this to -8. That moved it right up here against that support beam. And you'll notice it extends up into this block here, and that's fine. But you'll also notice it leaves a gap here. And when we connect the next block here, you'll see exactly what that looks like. So we'll connect that up to our path. So once again, for the top row of blocks, we change 3 properties. We orient along the path, change the vertical offset to 16, forward-backward offset to -8. And there you go. That creates the window with the light source over there that drops the shadow on the ground, right where we want it. Okay? And so you're going to do the same thing with both rows of blocks. Again, for each of these rows, you connect it to the path. You just set the orient along the path flag to true. And for all of these, you got 3 properties to set, and you're going to set them in the exact same way for all the blocks down the row. Okay? Now for the ceiling, it's basically the same thing. Just the settings are a little bit different because the angle of the ceiling is different. So the first block, no, we're not going to style it. And that put me in path mode out here. I hate that bug. All right, where did it put me? I need to be over here. All right, I meant to open the logic menu. New path connection. We connect that up to our path. Okay, and then we go into the block properties, toy box path. We want to orient along the path. And what you'll notice is that dropped it down onto the support beam. Because again, this path goes up at that angle. And again, when you connect something and you orient it along the path, it puts it at a 90-degree angle to the path. And so that lays it down against the support beam. So once again, all you have to do with these first row of blocks, do the path connection, come up, connect to the path. Go into the block properties, toy box path, orient along the path. That snaps it down in place. Do that for all of the paths, all the blocks down there for the first row of blocks here. Okay. For the second row of blocks, new path connection. Connect that up to the same path that they're lined up with. And for the properties on this one, once again, there's 3 properties we need to change. Orient along the path. This is the first one. That'll drop it on top of that first row of blocks. And then we need to move this up the slope there. So the vertical offset this time is going to be 7. That raises it straight up. And to move it back, we're going to change the forward-backward offset to -14. And there you go. And do the same thing with each of these all the way down. New path connection. Toy box path. Block properties. Orient along the path. Vertical offset 7. Forward-backward offset -14. So every one of those blocks in that back row over here, you're going to do the exact same thing, same properties, and that sets them along the ceiling. And you'll notice it leaves a gap here. In the screenshots, it was actually a row of fluorescent lights that was along the top, but since we don't really have something we can put in there for that, I'm leaving it open like a skylight window. Okay, so do that all the way down for both sets of paths. This is going to take you a while. This is pretty easy to do. It's just time consuming. And I've already figured out exactly how to orient the paths and what the settings need to be. So you don't have to figure it out. You just have to do what I do. And again, it does take time, but the end result will be worth it. I'm going to go ahead and connect all of these, and I'll fast forward and be back in just a moment, and I'll show you the final result. Okay, here we go. I have added in all of the walls on this side and all of the ceilings on this side. And of course, I've got all of the paths in there. You can see the lines for those and the lines for those. And overall, this took me just a little less than an hour to put all the paths in and connect all of the blocks. So for you, it might take an hour or maybe a little bit more, because this will be the first time you built it. This is the second time that I built it. But I think it turned out pretty good. And when you look at it from inside, it has the shape of the scare floor with the windows up there. And this just looks really, really good. But this is a technique that you can use anytime you need to build an angled wall or an angled ceiling on a custom building. I think this works out pretty well. But we are over our time for today. This is a little bit longer video than I wanted, so we're not going to be able to do anything more today. I know we still have some details to add, but we're going to do that next time. And we'll also work on the entrance to the scare floor and the hallway beyond. Until then, I want to thank you for watching. Before you go, please leave a comment and let me know what you think of my build for the scare floor so far. I always enjoy hearing from my viewers. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that, so you don't miss the next episode. That's all for me today. See you next time.